Welcome back to How To Trophies. I'm Dan and this is a guide for Zombie Driver. The game is pretty unique in being a top-down zombie killer where you're based in a car. It very much reminds me of the original GTA, GTA 1 or GTA 2. Obviously just with more zombies. There are 3 separate modes in this game. So first I will take you through the story mode, which you should probably complete first just to get a hang of the controls and how things work. These modes are completely independent, so you will not gain progress in one through the other. They're completely standalone, so you can actually complete them in whichever order you desire. So we'll load up the career mode and get started. Before we do that, please remember to subscribe to the channel here at How To Trophies. Leave us a comment in the comment section below, and obviously a like, a share, or any other kind of interaction with us here at How To Trophies. We're also on social media, so on Facebook, on X, and also on PlayStation Network, all at How To Trophies. We hope to interact with you on any of these platforms going forwards. The story mode is mission based, and you get to choose your car at the start. You only have one car at the very beginning, and that is the taxi. So we'll concentrate on this going forwards. You'll also notice that during some of the missions you have to pick up a certain amount of people or rescue a certain amount of people during each mission, so you'll need to buy specific vehicles throughout the game in order to give you the best chance, and I'll point those out as we go through. There are also usually 2 or more objectives in each mission, so there'll be a primary and a secondary objective. Ensure that you complete as many of the secondary objectives as possible. These will help you either gain money or trophies, and will also allow you to upgrade things or get different cars, which will help you further as you get into the game. For some of the missions the time limits are harder than others, so always check and make sure you do the objectives first. Don't worry about killing the zombies getting between the objectives. I guess the one thing I would point out is try and avoid the big green zombies, because they will take a lot of health off your vehicle if you just plow through them. So if you see them coming, try and always have a weapon engaged. I would always try and have the machine guns, because they're the best. The worst one is the flamethrower for me, so I would try and avoid that one if possible. If it's your only option, obviously keep that, but I'd try and have a long distance weapon available so you can cut through the zombies as you move between each objective. From the first section of the game, I concentrate on upgrading the weapons. These do carry between all vehicles during the career mode, so as you unlock each available weapon, try and upgrade that as much as possible. That will just allow you to have as much chance as killing as many zombies as possible. Don't worry about the car upgrades so much until you've got the cars that you think you're going to be proceeding with. Also, when I'm picking a vehicle for a mission, I will always pick the biggest vehicle available. So I unlock the limousine later and the coach. I will always use these vehicles where I need to collect a certain amount of people to try and give me as fewer drops as possible. This was easier for me and helped me really get through this game a bit quicker than I think I would have been able to if I'd had a different vehicle. There are a total of 31 missions in this mode, which will take you about 4 or 5 hours to complete, maybe a little bit longer depending on how you go. Although it is quite fun slaughtering zombies, so don't get too frustrated. Each level could take a couple of goes when you get later on, and in mission 31 you'll find the best tactic is just to rush through the level. You've got a timer, so don't bother about killing things, just rush and try and find your best way to the end. You can open the map at any point. This will help you navigate round, as the mini-map can be a little bit misleading, as you can end up going down streets that don't lead in a particular direction. So I'd always try and use the bigger map if you don't quite understand where you're going. There are markers on the side of the screen that tell you vaguely the direction of the next objective. Obviously use these, but like I said, try and use the mini-map a little bit, but mainly the bigger map from the pause type screen. Also, if you fail a mission, you do carry your money over that you've earned in that mission, so therefore even failing isn't really necessarily a bad thing. It will always help you to upgrade further your car or your weapons, which will give you a better chance next time you play. Hopefully this gives you everything you need to complete the 31 missions in the career mode, and then once you've completed that you can move on to either the slaughter mode or the race mode. I'll be back for more commentary at the start of those, so hope you enjoy the rest of the video until then, and we'll see you shortly.
Thank you so much. We are heading off to the military base. Meet you there.
Now that the bridges are open, we are finally ready for the final push to the new base in the harbor district. Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie reporting on site. Hostiles neutralized, area secured. We'll take it from here. Sector clear. You sprayed the entire neighborhood. I can't blame the zombies for hitting this stuff, though. It smells like old cheese with onions. Our new base is all set up. We can easily defend ourselves here, but we can't evacuate anyone through sea because the ship crews are missing. We found notes in one of the ship logs that the captain and his crew were
Why'd you have guns on your car? Is this some kind of hollow joke? With all these scarecrows walking strange? I want to go back to the ship.
to the entire situation. It appears that the corporation that was responsible for the accident in the chemical plant was working on a few secret medical research projects in cooperation with the local hospitals. One of those station inside the city. The remainders of the local police force are besieged in 3 police stations. The central police station is completely overrun. There is no chance anyone could have survived this. You can try to kill all these zombies and pick up one of the squad cars later. plants from growing any further. The news, son. The good news is that we now have a working fire truck. The bad news is that the firemen that you rescued got infected and turned into zombies. They started eating each other, so we had to burn them with flamethrowers. The worst part is that now we don't have a qualified crew that could operate the fire truck and put out those fires by the airport. You are the only man for the job, and so far, you handle all possible kinds of vehicles like a pro. Your only weapon is going to be the water cannon mounted on the truck. We've increased its output pressure so it might even squash some zombies. But still, you'll have to be extra careful around groups of zombies. You need to put down all of the fires on the barricades around the airport, and we'll take care of moving our equipment there. There's also a burning shopping mall just north of the airport that might contain some valuable supplies. If you can put it out, we'll have something extra. That are still left here. Operations to the airport. passenger planes. There's a rumor going around the rescue survivors. They say that there were some people cured from the disease in the first days of the outbreak. The spread of the epidemic. I have... That was intense. We heard the monsters roar from our base. You did one hell of a job.
We'll take a look at the blood race mode next. This is formed of different tournaments. You have a set amount of races in each tournament, and all you have to do is finish top of the leaderboard. You don't necessarily have to finish first in every single race, but it does help. The tournaments will be made up of different specific types of race, so you'll just have a standard race, or you might have to destroy a certain amount of cars during a race, or drive the most amount of distance in a set time. I found this mode pretty repetitive and did get a little bit annoying after a while, as you don't have the same amount of cars that you do at the start having done the career mode, so you have to re-unlock them all again. There are a different variety of cars, and some of the cars are so quick that you really can't control them very well around most of the tracks as they're quite tight. A little bit like the original Micro Machines game, but with obviously, again, more zombies. Tactics for this mode was simply to try and unlock the fastest car as possible. Even though you will probably be able to control it, you will still at least have the ability to catch the other competitors up. And again, like I said in the original start, you don't actually need to win every single race within the tournament to win the tournament, and that's the important part. Try and get gold in everything though, as it just helps, and one of the trophies at the end does mean that you have to have gold in each tournament. So if you can't get gold and you get silver, at least it will help you with money to upgrade your car or buy a better car. That's really it for the blood race mode. I hope this gives you everything you need to complete the races and get all the trophies, and we'll next move on to the slaughter mode. I'll be back to have a chat with you when we start that. And finally we'll look at the slaughter mode. This is simply a test of time where you have to spend as long as you can slaughtering zombies in a particular map. This is actually quite fun and you get a lot of zombies in the final hordes, so it can become really challenging as you move through. You do get a lot of weapons though, so it is quite fun to see how many zombies you can slaughter. Again, try and avoid the big green zombies, or at least shoot them at distance as they will explode, and this does take a lot of health off your particular vehicle that you're using, so I would try and avoid that where possible. Another tip for this game mode would be to move around as much as possible, so don't stay too long in the same position, as there are different spawn points for weapons, health and upgrades, and it's important that you know where these are, or at least you're driving around enough to find them, as you will get quite heavy damage during some parts of this, especially in the later levels, and you obviously need to keep refreshing your weaponry and upgrading, because that will help you throughout the game. You do have to complete each arena as a gold medal. This can be quite long, and some of the arenas will last upwards of 20 minutes for you to complete the gold medal. So lots of zombies for you to slaughter, and it may take a couple of goes. Similar to the other modes, you can buy new vehicles and upgrade them. I would suggest that you concentrate on upgrading them with the vehicles that you like the handling of, and that could be completely up to you. My personal preference was to use the big army military truck. This seemed to be the best choice for me, and I preferred the handling of this vehicle. It's all about personal preference, so you may choose a different vehicle, you may prefer to be more nimble and fast, but I found that the health on that vehicle wasn't particularly good, and therefore it's really hard to dodge zombies when the screen becomes so full of them. So when I needed to, I could just plow through them using the truck if I didn't have the right weaponry to actually kill them. So I would advise that you use one of the bigger, heavier vehicles for this mode to get as far as possible. Hopefully these tips help you out in this mode. If you're playing them in the order that I've played these in, once you've completed the final map gold, you should unlock the final trophy and then the platinum. Hope you've enjoyed this guide and it's enabled you to get that shiny new platinum. This has been a How To Trophies guide. I've been Dan. Please remember to like, share or subscribe, drop us a comment below, and also give us a watch in another video. Hope to see you again soon, and have a good day.